And I'm not saying it's safe, but it's safer. There's gold, silver, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. They're still high risk, but they're safer than the guaranteed theft of your money via our banks and our pension funds. Hello, Robert Kiyosaki. I'm going to be talking about this book here with my co-author, Edward Siddell. Edward Siddell has been awarded the biggest whistleblower award ever. It's in the millions of dollars because he called bullshit on the pension business. So our pensions are being stolen by the very people we give the money to. So Ted's not me on this call, but I think it's important that I continue on anyway. And at the back of Who Stole My Pension, which came out in 2020, it says, what is America's number one export? And America's number one export is fake money. We print money, and these financial planners sell you bonds and all that. And there's a law called Stein's Law. And Stein's Law says, what will come to an end will come to an end. And the reason I want to talk about this here is my generation, the boomer generation, is screwed because we trusted these financial planners. We trusted these pensions. They trusted the teachers union pension. They trusted the Teamsters union pensions. And those guys are turning out to be some of the bigger crooks. I call them the Jeffrey Epstein of the financial planning world. And these financial planners will tell you bonds are safe and all that. They're lying to you. Not true. There's nothing safe in the business today because America's number one export is fake money. We print money, and I think we're printing $1 trillion, every 90 days or something. And the reason you can print money is you first have to create a bond, a U.S. Treasury bond. And these financial planners and pensions buy them like crazy because the financial planners, who are like I said, the Jeffrey Epsteins, the perverts of the financial planning industry, they basically say that bonds are safe. They're not safe. Nothing's safe. Stupidity isn't safe. And so that's why I founded Rich Dad, the cash flow board game over here, so you can at least educate yourself. Don't even believe me. The very simple reason is very few people can do what I do. You see, most people, you look behind me, this is called the rat race. And that's where schools tell you to go to. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and They're lying to you. They're lying to you. Look, what's coming, ladies and gentlemen, is called AI, artificial intelligence, and super artificial intelligence. So in the next 5 years, you won't need attorneys, which is a good idea. You won't need accountants. Like even today, I can do contracts without attorneys using AI. And so all those A students, who, went to school and became attorneys and accountants and even doctors are becoming obsolete because of AI. Then you add Bitcoin to this whole message. And Bitcoin, like I said, is real money in a world of fake money. So Bitcoins, people say, well, it's not as safe as Well, Bitcoin is safer than the US dollar. I'm not saying it's safe. I wouldn't lie to you there. But Bitcoin and Ethereum are safer than the fake US dollar because America's biggest export is fake money. Like I said, every 90 days, we print $1 trillion in fake money. And my academic relatives, they always say, well, we save money. Well, if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I put savers are losers. You don't save money because they're printing it. Why would you save something they're printing? So when people say, well, the price of gold is going up, it's not that the price of gold is going up. The purchasing power of the dollar is coming down. So why do you save dollars? So that's why I'm not saying Bitcoin is safe or Ethereum's safe, but it's safer than the dollar. And this book here at Ted Siddell, it says here something like this is, he was named the 40 most influential people in the U.S. pension industry. Ted Siddell, who's blowing the whistle on our fake pensions, like our teachers' union pensions, CalPERS and all those criminal operations that supply the teachers and firefighters and police officers their pension, they're stealing from you. Those bankers are stealing from you. They are the Jeffrey Epstein of financial planning. So Rich Dad was created back in 1996 with this cash flow board game. So you could teach yourself about money and you could teach your friends about money. I teach capitalism. I don't teach Marxism or communism, which 90% of school teachers do. If you ever read the book, The Communist Manifesto, teachers, what we teach in school is that you should pay taxes. I don't pay taxes legally. Trump doesn't pay taxes because we're a capitalist. You want to pay taxes? Knock yourself out. Also, our school teachers are members of the labor union, the teachers union, the biggest single union in America, which is Marxist unions, because Marx was the guy who said labor, workers of the world unite. You want to be a communist, join a labor union. I refuse to. You can join them if you want to, but I don't want to. And what Ted Siddell and I are saying in this book, Who Stole My Pension, is these unions are stealing your pension because they work with the banks and the financial planners. So wake up. That's basically all I'm saying here. So I created the cash flow board game with my wife, Kim. And then you can teach yourself to get out of the rat race and onto the fast track. And on the fast track, I don't buy stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. Many people like Tony Robbins, they recommend ETFs. Fine, if you want to buy them, that's for losers. I'm a capitalist, I'm not a loser. I can create my own deals, and my deals are created on the fast track. Now, you have to understand the fast track. You might have to invest a little time and money in your financial education. In other words, don't go to school. Don't sit there and do what a teacher tells you to do, which is, get a job, don't make mistakes, and turn your money over to a financial planner. You've got to be a stupid individual to do that, because that's what we write about in Who Stole My Pension. Our banking system are the people like Goldman Sachs and all those characters. They're the guys who are stealing our pensions. And so, I recommend investing in, something like the Bitcoin pension, I think promoted by Goldman Sachs. But Goldman Sachs was also sued by the investors like me for stealing our silver. They're criminals, and they get away with it legally. That's why I call him the Jeffrey Epstein of financial planning. So that's why Ted Siddell and I wrote this book, Who Stole My Pension? And what's America's number one export is fake money and fake assets. So you want to invest in that stuff, knock yourself up, go to school, get a job, and turn your money over to a financial planner who'll tell you that stocks and bonds are safe. There's nothing safe out there. Neither is Bitcoin, but it's safer. It's less risk than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So it's up to you. If you want to sit there and be dumb and stupid and just give your money over to a pension plan like my poor dad did, it's up to you. You want to be like my rich dad and operate on the fast track as a capitalist. I'm a capitalist. I manage my own money. It's also called family offices. I don't need a financial planner. That you do, that's your choice. But the reason I created the cash flow board game, I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all my books on fake money and all that is to at least give you a running start. And the problem is right now, my generation, the boomers, are out of time. So even if the boomers are saving Bitcoin, you don't have enough time, because time in investing is one of your greatest assets. So please be careful, wake yourself up. So I say to young people all the time, I said, if you're under 40 and you just save a few dollars towards Bitcoin on one of those wallets that Coinbase provides, you might have a running shot at it. You might have a chance, because Bitcoin has more integrity than the dollar. That's all I'm saying. Is it safe? No. But anyway, so that's really why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, created the cash flow board game. So the cash flow board game is people can teach people Or you can go to one of those Jeffrey Epstein's of financial planning called a financial planner. And they'll tell you to save money in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds. They'll tell you the S&P has done this. But I don't believe a word they say. That the fact is gold has done better than the S&P. Now, will gold always do better? No. Will silver do better? It'll do better than gold in the short run. And gold stocks, I own gold mining stocks and silver stocks, but they're my companies. I took them public myself. What a true capitalist does is they take businesses public. So my first company I took public was a gold mining company in China in 2004. It's in Dalian, China. I took it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the TSE. And we struck gold in China. Unfortunately, the Chinese have no fucking integrity. They're a bunch of criminals. I'm not saying the Chinese people, the Chinese government has no integrity. So when we took our company public in China, as soon as we struck gold, I became a billionaire for a few short years because we struck gold in China. And then I got a personal phone call from the Chinese government, the CCP, and they said, if you pay us $2 million, we'll let you keep your gold mine. I said, what? I said, I got to pay you money? I said, yes. And I said, so I talked over with my partners. I said, when do we stop paying for this extortion? And my partners and I decided we stop being billionaires and stop paying the Chinese Communist Party. So around 2009, we said, you can take our gold mine. We refused to pay you the bribe money. And it was a tough decision. But then we took another company public, but this time it was in Utah, a little safer than China or California. So that's how education really takes place. You learn by your mistakes and you learn who the crooks are and all this. But I wouldn't recommend doing business in China because they don't respect the rule of law. Now, Epstein didn't respect the rule of law either when it came to moral law. So financial planners don't believe in the law either. They'll recommend assets that to me are questionable. They'll say that, stocks and bonds are safe. They're not safe. Nothing is safe in the world of such volatility. And America today is the biggest debtor nation in world history. Why would you believe our bankers? Why would you believe the Federal Reserve Bank? So if you don't learn, if you just trust other people, then good luck to you. So that's why I'll recommend this book here, Stole My Pension. If you're an old guy like me, it's essential because you're out of time. It takes money to acquire wealth. And my generation, the boomers, are screwed. We're screwed. So that's why I'm always saying, look at Bitcoin, look at Ethereum, look at silver, look at gold, but also look at my cash flow board game. And maybe you can become a capitalist on the fast track, or you can be a loser in the rat race over here. And that's where our schools tell you to go. They'll tell you to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and invest for the long term in the stock market with a financial fucking planner. Your choice. It's your free country. You can do what you like. I'd rather be a capitalist on the fast track, but that takes time. You've got to invest education, and you've got to have your own team of good accountants, good attorneys, people you can trust that have your best interest. Most accountants, attorneys have no integrity. They operate by under the set of rules. So you've got to know who your accountants and attorneys are. Now, the good news is my accountants and attorneys have written a book. They called my accountant wrote his book called Tax-Free Wealth, and my attorney, Garrett Sutton, wrote Own Your Own Corporation. So anyway, we'll be right back, and we're talking more about how you can have personal integrity, not only in yourself, but your accountants and your attorneys, and hopefully your medical doctors. So really, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get smarter. It doesn't mean that all people are crooks. It just means you have to increase your financial and technical education. We'll be right back.
What if you could add real gold and silver to your IRA or 401k tax and penalty free? That's what I do because I don't trust the dollar and I don't trust the system. They laughed when I said silver could hit $70. Now it's pushing $39, up 29% this year. Gold, it's up over 28%. It's broken multiple records in 2025, and it's currently around $3,300 an ounce. Some say it's heading to $6,000 under Trump. Why? Because inflation is rising, the dollar is collapsing, and the government keeps printing fake money. We're $37 trillion in debt, and if you're still sitting on cash, be careful. I buy real assets, gold, silver, real estate, and now more than ever, it's time to act. If you've got over $100,000 in the bank, call my friends at Priority Gold at 866-703-9895. Ask for my 2025 Rich Dad Wealth Defense Guide and talk to a gold and silver specialist about how to acquire tangible assets and use a little-known tax loop to add them to your IRA or 401k tax-free. It's a free consultation. No pressure, just real answers. Or text Guide to 24999 right now. You'll get instant access to the free guide, plus the chance to speak one-on-one with a trusted precious metals expert. That's Guide to 24999.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki. My guest today is my good friend, Ted Siddell. I'm going to read a little bit about him, and for some reason we have a miscommunication. But Ted, in 2018, Ted secured the largest CFTC whistleblower award. In other words, he blew the whistle on the pension industry and these financial planners. And it was the largest award in history. He made $30 million. So Ted is an attorney. He retired on one whistleblower against the financial planners, who I call the Jeffrey Epstein of financial education. So he made $30 million in 2017. And he was named the 40 most influential people in the U.S. pension debate by Institutional Investor magazine. So his credibility is very high up there. And so he and I decided to get together and write this book, Who Stole My Pension? When basically we're saying the same thing, except the pensions we're talking about are things like for the teachers union, which is the biggest union in America, and the firefighters and police officers and all that. In other words, all of our public servants are fucked because our governments, the Jeffrey Epsteins, a financial planner of the banking industry, are stealing your pension. Wake up. So that's why years ago, my wife and I in 1996 created the cash flow board game to counter the academic lie of go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt and invest for the long term in the stock market. That's advice for losers. That's why Dave Ramsey and I, tremendous respect for Dave Ramsey, but we have a different set of clientele where I used it because in 2071, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, the US dollar became debt. And yet Dave Ramsey will say, get out of debt. If we all got out of debt, the financial market would collapse. Without debt, there's no money. Money is created when you and I borrow money. Unfortunately, today, America is the biggest debtor nation in world history. I mean, they should follow Dave Ramsey's advice, these frickin' political leaders of ours. And so our financial planners are the Jeffrey Epsteins of money. Financial planning, they say, well, you should, put your money in the stock market. And that's why Ted Siddell and I wrote this book here. So it's what is America's number one export? Fake assets, fake money. We print fake stuff. And today America's about 36 trillion in debt and growing. And our financial planners say the S&P is safe. It's not. Our bonds are safe. They're not. What's safer, but not safest, what's safer is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and real gold and real silver. So that's kind of recommended, but are they safe? No. Nothing is safe in the hands of stupid people. So don't be stupid. And then things get safer. So the direct correlation between stupidity and poverty, and lack of discipline. And the average American has no frickin' education and absolutely no discipline That's why there was a book written called Fat, Dumb, and Stupid, the story of the American people. Our television lies to us. Our news media lies to us. So now our students are deeply in debt, going to schools, learning a fake education. We learn nothing about money. If you read other books on Harvard, you'll find out who influences Harvard is the Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank is criminal. So they actually have the power to tell Harvard what they can teach about financial education. There's a book called The Big Print. Let me say it again. The Big Print by my friend Lawrence Lepard. The Big Print by Lawrence Lepard. In there, Lawrence points out when guys like Fed Chairman Bernanke and Yellen are actually lying. And he points out how the Fed is actually paying Harvard to teach what the Fed wants taught. And if you know anything about the Fed is Marxist. The Fed is not American. They're not bank, and they're not federal, and they're a complete sham and a crook. So that's why people like George Gammon and are going after the Fed, saying, end the Fed. We've got to end the Fed, because when you read Lawrence Lepard's book, The Big Print, he shows exactly where guys like the Fed are paying Harvard to teach students to be stupid about money. So that's why I call it the Jeffrey Epstein of financial planner. They're perverts. So if that's why this book here, Who Stole My Pension, and I'm not saying it's safe, but it's safer. There's gold, silver, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. They're still high risk, but they're safer than the guaranteed theft of your money via our banks and our pension plans. So when I talk to young people who are under 40, I said, just keep adding a little bit to your Bitcoin account, your coin. I think it's called Coinbase. I have one. I invested in Bitcoin for the first time when I watched Bitcoin go to 20,000. And then I saw it drop. And because I studied technical trading, which is the ups and downs of markets, I watched it. And so it went to 20, it dropped to 1. I said, I should have bought at $1. Well, I didn't know enough. I didn't have enough information. So I started studying, and gold went to $3. Bitcoin went to $3, and I should have bought then, but I still didn't know enough. And Bitcoin held at 6,000. So I bought 10 Bitcoin at 6,000 each. So I got $60,000. And over time, I keep adding to it. Today it's worth $3.5 million. So it's the easiest way to get rich. Not that it's guaranteed, please hear me. You can still lose money in Bitcoin. But I've never seen something so easy, because at least Bitcoin and Ethereum, these crypto things, some of them, not all of them, have integrity. They've got integrity. More integrity than the US dollar or the Federal Reserve Bank. I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm just calling as I see it. And right close to my house, is one of the biggest buildings I've ever seen in Phoenix, and it's owned by the student loan business. It's big business ripping off our students. And it's not that student loans rip off all students. Student loans only rip off poor students. In other words, my friends who are rich, they don't need to take out student loans because they use investments to pay for their kids' college education. But poor people have to use things like student loans to pay for their kids' education. And today, student loans, I think, is a $1.6 trillion disaster. We're wiping out the poor kids of America. And today, homelessness goes through the roof, because why would you produce in America when factories move overseas back in 2000? So homelessness goes up because our jobs went overseas. But it's Ted Siddell and myself who go after the pension business. And that's why not that it's safe, but gold, silver, and Bitcoin and Ethereum, you have a better chance today. So if you're younger, under than 40, just add a little bit every month to it, and it'll keep increasing. So the final words on My partner here in this co-author in this book, Ted Siddell, other one's me, Robert Kiyosaki. It says here, we co-authored Who Stole My Pension? And Ted later wrote, How to Steal a Lot of Money Legally. And Ted's an attorney. So he says, this is how they're legally stealing our money. And then his latest book is Buried Beneath a Tree in Africa. And as the details of his father was much like him. Ted's father was a whistleblower, and Idi Amin murdered him from Africa, and buried him beneath a tree and didn't tell anybody. So Ted had, because of his whistleblower activity, had to go find his own father. They'll always be criminals. Your job is to get smarter. So that's why I recommend financial education. We created the cash flow board game so people can teach people. And the greatest honor I have, I am now going to Zimbabwe. And I had the good fortune to be in Zimbabwe when the Zimbabwe dollar collapsed. And I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, being in Zimbabwe when the dollar collapsed, which the US dollar might do, which the yen might do, which the euro might do, and which the South African rand might do, when fake money collapses, which the Zim did, it's frightening. So I was in Zimbabwe when the Zimbabwe dollar collapsed, and it was terrifying. The first thing I had was young black guys with AK-47s. I'm in Zimbabwe, and they put their guns up on me. I had to go like this. I thought I was back in Vietnam. I had 2 tours in Vietnam as a Marine pilot. I had to put my hands up, and they were going to kill me. So, geez, I'm going to die in Zimbabwe. And they went up to the white farmer in Zimbabwe. And the little lady, she's a little tiny woman, white woman, she came out, she goes, burn this place down. Burn this down. So I'm in Zimbabwe. I think I'm back in Vietnam because these black guys are holding AK-47s. Generally, they're North Vietnamese before holding AKs up to me. So shit, I'm going to die out here now. And so she comes out, little white woman. She goes, burn this place down. So my friend and I, we look and we go, okay, we'll do it. And being a Marine, we know one thing. The first place you torch is the diesel shack. So we cruise over to the diesel shack, lit our torches, put it on the diesel, and the whole place blew up. So I returned to Zimbabwe, and we're teaching the cash flow game. And I'm very happy to announce the government of Zimbabwe is actually sending their leaders to observe the game to find out if it's a legitimate teaching tool. And so that's why I'm happy. We teach financial education to the masses. People teach people. And my dear friend, Tom Wheelwright, my CPA, he is going to have his CPAs teach the cash flow game to entrepreneurs like me, because entrepreneurs and CPAs have to communicate. And the game helps us communicate to become better entrepreneurs. So that's the joy of my life. This cash flow game was developed in 1996 by my wife and I, and it keeps going around the world. So I'll be in Zimbabwe completing that. I've been to Vietnam to teach the game. I'm going to Sri Lanka to teach cash flow. And I've been in China teaching cash flow as well as Japan. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, education goes on. And next year we're coming out with a cash flow game in Arabic. So the Muslims can teach Muslims financial education. And hopefully if we have Muslims teaching Muslims, because I'll be in Istanbul teaching there. So that's what the cash flow game is, teaching capitalism to the world in different languages. And I'm very happy to be a part of it. So thank you for watching the Rich Dad Radio Show. Keep your financial education. Who's stealing your pensions? It's your bankers and financial planners. And this is my friend Ted Siddell. This is what's America's #1 expert: fake money and fake assets. Thank you for watching Rich Dad.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.